What's up everyone, and welcome to our first ever Creator Pet Cards Showcase video. I reached out to 8 incredible Magic the Gathering content creators and asked them 2 simple questions. 1, what's your favorite pet card? And 2, what is an underrated card that you think deserves way more love? If you're new here, this channel is all about shining a spotlight on hidden gems and overlooked bangers that you're not likely to find if you're just scrolling through EDH Rec for ideas to add to your deck. And if you have been here for a while, you already know that I love a good little friendly competition, which is why I run a public deck building competition every single month. So we're keeping that same energy here today. I'll be showcasing 16 total cards, 2 from each creator. After you've watched the video, I want you to vote by dropping a single comment telling me your favorite card from the showcase. You know, that could be a card you already love. It could be something that you're seeing for the first time today, or maybe just a pick that you think perfectly embodies the creator who submitted it. After 48 hours, I'll take the 4 most liked comments, turn them into a poll, and whichever card wins that poll will earn its creator a Baldur's Gate Collector Booster Pack, just as a fun surprise thank you. And just so you know, none of the creators had any idea that there would be any aspect of voting or a prize involved. I wanted their picks to be 100% genuine and not influenced by anything other than just the prompt itself. So what you're about to see are their honest and unfiltered answers for their favorite pet card and an underrated card that deserves more love. So with that being said, let's start in alphabetical order, and our first creator today is Blood Artist. I have been a huge fan of Blood Artist's work ever since day one. I think it was a short about Pact of Negation. I was like, oh yeah, this is super cool, and it brings a new style of whiteboard content to the MTG space. And not to mention, Blood Artist has some of the cleanest handwriting I have ever seen, and on a whiteboard no less, which is, just super impressive. So Blood Artist's pick for a pet card is Share the Spoils. This is a 2-mana enchantment that costs 1 generic and 1 red, and it says, when Share the Spoils enters the battlefield or an opponent loses the game, exile the top card of each player's library. During each player's turn, that player may play a land or cast a spell from among cards exiled with Share the Spoils, and they may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. When they do, exile the top card of their library. So when sharing why they picked this card, Blood Artist had to say this about Share the Spoils. This card immediately gives everyone card draw they might otherwise be lacking, and suddenly nobody is missing land drops. Every time someone flips something exciting into exile, the whole table is screaming and trying to math out, who's going to get to play it. And if someone should attempt to spite them by playing the powerful thing, even if it's not good for their board, ends up scrambling the boards and everyone gets to play Magic. It's unplayable in higher pods, of course, since giving opponents card draw is really, really bad, but I still love it. I'll be honest, I have never seen this card played before. It sounds awesome, and I'd imagine it playing out just as mentioned. And this is only 2 mana, which is an awesome add into pretty much any deck, especially with all of the exile support that's out there. I'll probably be picking up a copy or 2 to try this out because it sounds like a blast. And Blood Artist's pick for underrated card is Sadistic Hypnotist. This is a 5-mana 2/2 human minion, and it says, sacrifice a creature. Target player discards 2 cards. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So when discussing this card, Blood Artist mentioned, I think generally Wizards of the Coast design cards that are sensible on rate for card draw, but makes cards that are absolutely bonkers for discard. Sadistic Hypnotist hits the board and suddenly you can just ruin someone's day by sacrificing a couple nothing creatures. Was a monster in my old Marin deck, to the point where I started to feel bad resolving it. Absolutely underrated. I would amend that statement and just say, this doesn't just ruin someone's day. This can ruin everyone's day that is not you. I mean, come on. First of all, if this was just a 1-1 rate of sacrifice a creature, discard a card, that alone would be very strong. But discarding 2 cards for 1 creature being sacrificed is absolutely insane. So in terms of a sacrifice outlet, yes, it can be infinite, but the sorcery speed activation really does limit this a lot because you can't sacrifice a creature in response to removal or in response to a board wipe. But A, if you can protect it, and B, if you don't feel bad playing this card and discard effects in general, then, oh yeah, this card can absolutely be game changing. I think both of these are super fun options. Thank you, Blood Artist, for sharing these picks. It's been really fun to see both of these cards, especially since they're pretty new to me as well. Up next, we have Commander Bommy. I came across Bommy's channel a year ago when he created the Rocco and Norn the Wary deck tech. Then he solidified me as a very faithful subscriber with the video arguing how white is the strongest color in Casual Commander. I've also been a big fan of the recent Commander deck feature series, so I was really stoked to have Commander Bommy on here to share his picks about underrated pet card and, underrated card and a pet card. If you haven't seen that Commander deck feature series, you should definitely check it out. Bommy's pick for a pet card is the Regalia. This is a 4-mana 4/4 vehicle. It has haste and crew 1, and it says, whenever the Regalia attacks, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a land card. Put that card onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So when talking about this card, Bommy said, I play this silly card in literally every single deck. I'm a big believer in land ramp. Every deck should be land ramping, and ideally repeatedly. I'm also a big fan of monocolor decks. Most of the time I'm playing some sort of monocolor list. I just enjoy the restrictions that come along with that. Given these 2 factors, I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out ways to land ramp in every color. They all can do it, and it drives me mad when people act as if only green can get lands into play. So nothing makes me happier than to see a fun colorless card that lets me land ramp in every single deck while also smacking people in the face for a chunky 4 damage each time. It's also hilarious to get to pick a creature to drive the car each time. Of course, a huge dragon can drive. Hell yeah, this rabbit has a driver's license. This fish you gave me? Yup, going on a road trip. I can't recommend it enough. I love this card as well. I remember playing against this card for the first time. I actually had to read it again because the ability was so powerful and it was just crew 1. It really did catch me off guard. Also, the fact that it can flip into any land, not just basic lands, is really good. This is a legendary artifact, so if you've never seen this card before and you want to jump right into the deep end, you can make this your commander, and it seems like it'd be a lot of fun as well. Commander Bommy's pick for underrated card is Claws of Gix. This is a 0-cost artifact that has an ability to pay 1 to sacrifice a permanent and you gain 1 life. So here's what Bommy shared about this card. This one is a lot more specific. Claws of Gix is a sack outlet that sees basically no play, and there are a couple of good reasons for that. It's a sack outlet that costs mana to activate, and it doesn't really offer anything in return. It seems like just an objectively worse version of Zurin Orb, or Goblin Bombardment, or Viscera Seer, and for the most part, that is true. But there are a couple things about Claws of Gix that I think really get overlooked. First of all, it doesn't cost any mana up front. In that way, the first couple of sacrifices you get are not actually more expensive than spending mana on an outlet and then going for it. Zurin Orb, of course, being the exemption. Second, it's colorless. Not every color has access to good sack outlets, but they all have death triggers. Third, it lets you sacrifice anything. There are decks and colors, white most notably, but also green, that might be interested in sacrificing unusual permanents. Claws of Gix can compress multiple cards into a single multi-purpose tool that fulfills very specific needs. And fourth, this goes back to me being a bracket 2 gamer. Claws of Gix is fair in a way that Zurin Orb or Goblin Bombardment aren't. It might be a bit odd to list the card being worse as a reason to say it's underrated, but I think for lower bracket gameplay, it can sometimes be difficult to find an option that isn't the best possible and hence quite overwhelming that still feels good to play. Claws of Gix is a catch-all here. Plenty good to play, sometimes absolutely fantastic, but always in a way that feels fair and manageable. I play it in both a mono green and mono white list, and it always does wonders. Wow, I think you nailed it. Awesome description. The only other thing that I'd have to add that you didn't cover, because you said a lot of things that I hadn't even thought of before. But for anyone who is participating in our Hidden Commander deck building competition that is currently live, I mentioned in the videos that Hidden Commanders getting exiled is one of the biggest arguments against the archetype as a whole. Something like Claws of Gix is an excellent safety net that you could throw into your Hidden Commander decks. It fits in literally any deck, and if someone tries to exile your commander, your hidden commander I should say, you can just pay 1 to sacrifice it, and it is a lot easier to recur your secret commander from the graveyard than it is from exile. I absolutely love these picks. Thanks so much, Commander Bommy, and for these wonderful descriptions as well. Our third creator today is Deck Driver MTG. I started playing Magic back in 2010, but I stopped for many years. And Deck Driver MTG was one of the first content creators I remember watching when I started to get back into Magic seriously. It was the video about Othari's Sun's Glory, and I've continued to return to his videos for deck building ideas and themes ever since then. If you haven't already, you should definitely check out this channel. In terms of pet card, Deck Driver's pick is Braid's Arisen Nightmare. This is a mono black 3-mana 3/3 that says, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent of their choice that shares a card type with it. For each opponent who doesn't, that player loses 2 life and you draw a card. So when talking about this, Deck Driver mentioned, as someone who loves black, it is a go-to for literally any and all black decks I play no matter what. I'm not sure how popular it is on a broader scale, but I do know I'm the only player I've ever seen in my LGS that uses it. The reason Braids is my pet card is because of how often or how open it is for brewing, both in the command zone and the 99. Braids can slot into most strategies because it can sacrifice anything including lands. Braids also provides a ton of card draw every turn to its controller and guarantees card advantage due to its ability. Either your opponents give up something they value, or you draw a card. Following everything else stated, it puts your opponents in a very tough situation, decision-wise, and can put them in tough spots while also being very interesting for the controller to find out which card type they can sacrifice to get the most value, like a game within a game. Despite everything I just mentioned, Braid surprisingly gets little to no removal thrown her way, which is probably her biggest strength. So I know Deck Driver plays this as a commander because I've watched the videos, so hearing that you play this in the 99 of a lot of decks as well is super cool to hear. I play this in one-on-one settings in MTG Arena, and this ability with just one opponent is good, so the fact that this counts each opponent is incredible in a game of Commander. I think a mono black Super Friends deck would be a super fun build around this, because most decks these days don't really run planeswalkers, so sacrificing a planeswalker could likely get you 3 card draw every single turn while draining your opponents as well. In terms of picks for underrated cards, Deck Driver's pick is Traumatize, which is a 5-mana blue sorcery that says target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded down into his or her graveyard. When discussing the reason behind picking this card, Deck Driver MTG mentioned, this effect is crazy as someone who loves graveyard-style strategies, and I feel this card is even better than its cousin, Peer into the Abyss in black. A Peer into the Abyss typically wins you a game, but has a steep price of 7 total mana, plus half your life total, whereas Traumatize is only 5 and no life loss, allowing usually for a double spell opportunity, as well as helping its controller dig incredibly deep into their library for answers or a win. While the card says target player, I have never really targeted anyone other than myself with this effect. This card is incredible and has won me many games thanks to my graveyard loving shenanigans. So yeah, I gotta say, there have been many times where I wish that I had access to this ability. Most of the commanders playing this are mill commanders, so it's cool to hear your primary use case is filling up your own graveyard as opposed to trying to mill out your opponents. For example, I think that this is an insane card in Bruna Light of Alabaster, or if you have Grolnok the Omnivore on the battlefield in a Tavalla the Balanced Scale deck, this card is bonkers because the cards hit the graveyard before getting exiled, so each permanent you mill creates its own 2/2 Black Zombie Druid trigger. Super fun picks. Thank you so much. And like I said, if you haven't watched Deck Driver MTG before, you absolutely need to check it out. His videos are amazing. I absolutely love hearing about people's favorite pet cards and underrated picks. I actually started a weekly newsletter where every week I highlight a reader's pet card and underrated card, just like we're doing in this video. If you are interested in a fast read every Sunday morning, you can sign up in the description below. Next up, we have our first member of what I've seen referred to on Reddit as the Holy Trinity of MTG creators, and that's Salubrious Snell. And for anyone who is unaware, the others in that aforementioned Holy Trinity of MTG creators are Trinket Mage and 3/3 Elk. I saw in an EDH Recast video a while back that one of Salubrious Snell's videos was popular enough that it single-handedly brought Xyrus the Writhing Storm into the top 10 or maybe it was top 25 most played decks for a time. Let me know if anyone remembers that exact stat, but yeah, I'm sure you've probably seen that video. It was an awesome video. Also, that's just sick to be able to say, yep, I influenced one of the top played commanders at the time. Snail's pick for a pet card is Tyrant of Discord. This is a 7 mana creature. It's 7/7. It costs 4 generic and 3 red. And it says, when Tyrant of Discord enters the battlefield, target opponent chooses a permanent he or she controls at random and sacrifices it. If a non-land permanent is sacrificed this way, repeat the process. And when discussing this, here's what he had to say about it. For a pet card, I can't think of any long time played cards that fit the description, but I added Tyrant of Discord to my most played deck a little while back, and it's been truly a blast. It's not a reliable removal spell at all, but it is very funny to gamble with it and see how many permanents I can hit on somebody. I love that. I think the description is super funny, and this card is just hilarious. I am curious how the people, the approaches for randomization. Do people number it off, or is there a more optimal way? But I love RNG type effects, so I'll definitely be trying this out. Maybe it's time for me to dust off my Duke Older Raven Guard deck. This is also great cheat-in target for decks like Tanuk Steadfast Second or Ilharg the Razeboar. And I also made a video about how Calamity Galloping Inferno is insanely slept on. So yeah, this is an ETB effect that can go well in those types of commanders. In terms of underrated card, Salubrious Snell's pick is Detective's Phoenix. This is a 3 mana mono red card. It costs 2 generic and 1 red. It's a 2/2 Phoenix. It has flying haste, and enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and haste. You may cast Detective's Phoenix from your graveyard using its bestow ability. So the bestow cost is 1 red and collect evidence 6. The reasoning behind this card, he said, my underrated card would be Detective's Phoenix, as it's a fantastic haste enabler in any deck with mill or self-discard, especially for decks that care about the flying as well. Yeah, fair enough. I can actually vouch for this card. I mentioned in my overlooked Murders at Karlov Manor cards video that collect evidence as a whole is very underrated. People are usually hesitant to lose their cards forever, but many of the cards in your graveyard, you're not planning to recur anyways. I think Collect Evidence 6 is not even that steep of a cost for how big of a discount it is to make this only 1 red mana from your graveyard. I think super great card. Thank you for calling attention to these cards. Our red mages now have some fun new tools that they can play with. Next up, we have That Mill Guy. Chef is one of my go-to channels to listen to while I'm doing the dishes or cleaning up after I put the kids down to bed at night. I admittedly don't play a ton of 60 card formats. Yeah, I play some ranked in MTG Arena, but I don't have any paper decks that are 60 card formats. But I still like to know what's going on in other formats, and that mill guy is one of the people that I turn to hear, what's going on in the different formats. And also, just want to say huge congratulations on becoming an MTG ambassador. It's very well deserved. So, was excited to see that. As a fun little surprise, we'll actually hear directly from Shaft himself about his pick for a pet card. So, I'm going to play a video recording.
Hey everyone, it's Shaft, aka That Mill Guy, giving you my favorite EDH card. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and it's going to be the Undercity. So yes, this is going to be multiple cards giving you the Undercity and the Initiative. But the reason I love this so much is it's so much better than the Monarch, where you just passively get a card. A lot of maybe casual players or newer players may not understand the value of that card, or just understand it to a certain degree and they may not even go for it. But the Undercity promotes a lot of action, and I think that's what's missing from a lot of games of Commander in general. And it's a great politicking tool. So if you start with the Initiative yourself, yes, you get a basic land, but it's great in like especially 2 to 3 color plus decks where you can look at someone else and say, hey, you're missing a basic. Let's be friends here. I'll let you swing at me. You take the Undercity, you get your basic, I swing at you back and get it back. And there's so many useful modes. So for example, the Forge mode allows you to put 1/1 counters onto something. So if something needs to get bigger to meet a threshold for someone else, you can also go into the arena mode to goad a creature that's maybe just there to be like an emblem, the type of creature that doesn't swing, but is giving so much passive value in the fact that it's just able to like sack other things. It forces some combat into something like that. You can then like draw a card, and then also that final mode is amazing because if you're built around the initiative, you might get another initiative creature, or you could get another cornerstone creature that gives you more value, or is just another combo piece. All in all, the Undercity is one of my favorite mechanics, not only in Commander, but in 60 card Magic. Yes, I'm a bit of a degenerate, but really in Commander, what is designed for, it does shine in so many ways, and I try and include it at least even as a one of, maybe on a land or a singular creature, just to get it on the board and again promote some action in Commander.
Love it. So first of all, I think this is definitely a valid pick. It is a mechanic, but it's also literally a card. So I think it's a fun pick for a pet card, and I think you nailed it. While it can be a lot to track the initiative, I think people who play this can make it very fun for people if you bring extra copies of the Undercity, so everyone has one and you can add and bring additional trackers as well. I've actually looked into building a Hama Pashar Ruin Seeker deck, but I've never actually got around to building it. But maybe, that reminded me that this is something that I do want to make a deck around. And for underrated card pick, we have Ashiok Dream Render. I will read it first, then let's hear Shaft's take on this card as well. Ashiok Dream Render is a 3-mana planeswalker. It says, spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause their controller to search their library. It has 5 as the starting loyalty and has a -1 ability that says, target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, then exile each opponent's graveyard. Let's see what that mill guy has to say about this card.
What's up, everyone? It's your boy Shaft coming at you with my favorite card in Commander that I love to jam in as many decks as I can. And maybe it'll go in even more decks considering the potential changes to hybrid mana. We're talking Ashiok Dream Render, a planeswalker that really does so much, and I really fell in love with originally in 60 card Magic just because it is such a shutdown piece, not only against graveyard strategies, but that search is so good, that anti-search, and it really does scale well. So you get a lot of passive hits against the graveyard style strategies, as well as the fact that as you get into higher brackets, not only in bracket 4, but maybe some type of like bracket 5 brew, you can stop your opponents from searching, grabbing the tutor pieces, the random fetches, and there's going to be a lot more graveyard synergies in general. And then plus, I'm that mill guy. I'm going to be playing mill decks, and so just milling our opponent is fantastic. The fact that it does say target player mills works alongside stuff like Brewvac, where if it's just like, kind of exiling the cards and putting away, maybe something like Tasha's, you don't get that trigger. And what's kind of nice about something like this is that it mills target player for 4, so you could even mill yourself if you're like a reanimator strategy, but then also exiling immediately everyone's graveyard. So if you're playing against a table full of graveyard strategies, you're just going to continuously get that activation. And yes, it's only going to be downticked and downticked, but it's the type of thing that like draws a lot of attention and you can politic with and kind of engage people and say, hey, that one player number 2 is always going for their graveyard strategies. We're going to try and stop them. You try and help keep this alive, and I'll make sure not to mill you with it, or I won't activate when you need to go off, or whatever it is. Again, great politicking tool, a great planeswalker that really does scale well into the higher brackets, and one that, again, because the hybrid mana change or potential change might see a little bit more play. So Ashiok Dreamrender, slam dunk planeswalker in my opinion.
Awesome. That male guy really is living up to his name with this. I have been wrecked by this card before. You know, the no search ability can be brutal, especially if you don't have planeswalker removal and the player has the creatures and ability to defend it. The exiling each opponent's graveyard is also so powerful. And the last thing that I will say about this is it is unlike a lot of the other uncommon planeswalkers from War of the Spark because the ability is -1, so you can use it up to 5 times. A lot of the other uncommon planeswalkers have -2 abilities, or many of them that have -1s have a starting loyalty of 3. So thank you so much, Chef, for sharing these picks and for the videos as well. It was super awesome to hear your thoughts behind each of these cards. Up next, we have the one and only host of the Magic Mirror podcast, Trinket Mage. I think Trinket Mage has some of the most convincing argument structuring out there. You know, sometimes I see a hot take in one of the thumbnails or titles and, you know, you're like, no way. But as you watch the video, you're like, well, he's got a point. And by the end, you're already making some changes to your deck. If you haven't seen his videos or listened to the podcast, you absolutely are missing out, so check it out for sure. Trinket Mage's pick for pet card is Dino DNA from the Jurassic Park bonus sheet. This card says, well, first of all, it's a 1 mana artifact. It has imprint, so for 1 and tapping, you can exile a target creature card from a graveyard, activate only as a sorcery. Then you can pay 6 generic to create a token that is a copy of target creature card exiled with Dino DNA, except it is a 6/6 green dinosaur creature with trample. Activate only as a sorcery. So here's what he had to say about this card. A pet card I really liked recently is Dino DNA. I played it in my Thanos list, which, by the way, I will link that deck list in the description for anyone who is interested. So the sorcery speed aspect does hold this back from being good graveyard hate, but it's like a super mimic vat where you get tons of value. Putting something like a sad robot under it is just insane. And since the copies are 6/6 creatures, any dumb utility dork is actually pretty strong. Also, getting 2 of them for 8 mana with a commander isn't too bad either. I've been eyeing this for a while now, and I think it's finally time, you know, to pick one up. We actually saw this card in one of the finalist decks of our recent Color Pie deck building competition. There was a Adrix and Nev Simic Reanimator deck that used cards like Dino DNA to make token copies of creatures in graveyards, and then doubled it up with a commander. One of my favorite parts of this as well is that the activation to create the token doesn't require it to be tapped. So if you are playing a big mana deck, you aren't limited to just creating 1 token in a single turn if you have the mana to activate this ability multiple times. Trinket Mage's pick for underrated card is False Prophet. This is a 4 mana 2/2. It costs 2 generic and 2 white. And it says, when False Prophet is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, exile all creatures. So Trinket Mage said about this card, as an underrated card, I think False Prophet is really slept on. It can be a great pillow fort effect since people don't want to lose their board so they won't attack you, or it can be a wrath when needed. Play the card and ask someone to attack into you or have them agree to block. Yeah, this card is sick. It really can be, you know, that politic piece or ticking time bomb that the board needs. You can play it in your aristocrat decks as well to threaten the instant speed sacrifice if someone tries to exile it. Then, of course, you know, you just sacrifice all your other creatures before the ability actually resolves. Or I think that this would be hilarious in a Yasharn Implacable Earth deck to prevent opponents from sacrificing their board to get death triggers in response to this ability on the stack. Excellent picks. Thanks so much once again for including these cards, and excited to see what people think about them. We have two more. So next up we have Quips&Guac. If you've thought that you've made unhinged or wild deck ideas before, Quips&Guac has probably already built it. Like, new deck techs are whole nother beasts in terms of content creation. There's so much time, creativity, and also scrutiny involved in making deck tech videos. So I have huge respect for what Quips&Guac does, and also just the creativity and fun that it brings to the game. So yeah, thanks for all your videos. The pick for a pet card is Brash Taunter. This is a 5 mana. I think it's classic. Many people know about it. It's 1/1, has indestructible, and says whenever Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. Then you can pay 2 generic and a red and tap it. Brash Taunter fights another target creature. So when talking about this, Quips&Guac said, Brash Taunter is just a fun guy. You know, he blocks and deals damage. He can fight and do damage. Blasphemous Act? You mean I now get to deal 13 damage and have my guys stay on the board? He's a Swiss Army knife of a card, and I love him with all my heart. Wow, we love to see it, and Brash Taunter loves you back as well. This, like I said, this card is a classic. It's so much fun. It's just fun to build around to see what you can do. Maybe throw on a pariah. You can try lure effects, or the opposite of lure and throw on like an entangler to be able to block every creature. If you are watching this and you have a favorite Brash Taunter card, please let us know in the comments below what you like to do with this. The pick for underrated card is Explorer Scope. So this is a 1 mana artifact equipment that says whenever equipped creature attacks, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped, and it has an equip cost of just 1. Here's what Quips&Guac had to say about this. 1 drop, easy equip, ramp for decks that don't have green. You know, at worst, it's info for what you will draw next turn, but any scry or surveil or library manipulation makes this good all the time. Plus, the odds are so good. 50% chance a card is a land, 50% it's not a land. What's not to like? I am a huge fan of this card, and I also play the vehicle version in Mobile Homestead, which always performs so well, and it feels like a hack when you do hit the ramp that you want it to. A 1-drop with Equip 1 is so good. It's easy for meeting modified creature requirements. It's an attack trigger that can be doubled, or also with extra combats it works well. Maybe just slap this on in Alexios Deimos of Cosmos or Slicer Hired Muscle to get the trigger on each player's turn. Both of these cards are super fun picks, so thanks so much Quips&Guac for your videos and also these ideas. Since we are in alphabetical order, our final creator of the day and last member of the aforementioned Holy Trinity of MTG creators is 33elk. If you haven't watched 33elk's videos before, you're definitely missing out. I actually listen to the live deck reviews just while I'm working my 9 to 5. It's so ASMR and calming and relaxing. And so, yeah, if you don't watch just the videos, tune in for one of the lives sometimes because, like I said, it's pretty relaxing while you're just doing your day job. 33elk's pick for pet card is Bruna the Fading Light. This is a 7 mana angel horror that is a 5/7. It costs 5 generic and 2 white. And it says, when you cast this spell, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also has flying and vigilance and melds with Gisela the Broken Blade. And when talking about this card, 33elk mentioned, I don't really have a pet card in multiple decks. I don't really overlap them because I want them to shine. My favorite card, though, is Bruna the Fading Light. I run her in a deck with Thalia's Lancers, which she can return because it's a human. The cast trigger effect is really strong. I am a fan of her play patterns, and once you meld her, it's game winning. I totally agree. Let us know in the comments if you have seen this melded before. And for anyone who is not familiar with the meld side, Brazella Voice of Nightmares is a 9/10 with flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink, and an ability that says your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. So it's nice to see some love for Bruna, and I've never thought of returning Thalia's Lancers with Bruna's cast trigger to fetch up Gisela to then cast and meld into Brizella. The nice part of Brizella's second ability is that most people these days are so focused on playing optimized removal spells that most targeted removal is 3 mana or less. I also just love the pick. Like I said, it's refreshing to see it as, especially in today's era of efficient Magic, this card can catch people off guard and absolutely win games. So I love this as a pet card pick. In terms of underrated card, 3/3 Elk's pick is Thraben Charm. This is a 2 mana instant that costs 1 generic and 1 white, and it says choose one. Thraben Charm deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature, or destroy target enchantment, or exile any number of target players' graveyards. Here's what Elk had to say about this card. In the right deck and meta, it's better than Generous Gift. Removal plus Graveyard Hate is crazy strong for 2 mana instants. I honestly didn't realize that this is in less than 1% of decks. I think options 2 and 3 are uncontested as great card options for a 2 mana instant. Option 1 is definitely the most doubted part, I'd say, of the spell. But as mentioned, in the right decks, this option is very powerful and can get rid of most non-indestructible threats. I personally love running this for the third option. Just the flexibility in how many players' graveyards you exile is so powerful, and you can leave your own graveyard alone, unlike Farewell and Rest in Peace. And like I said, while I do slot this in for the third option of the Graveyard Hate, there's so many times where options 1 and 2 are more relevant, and I'm so glad to have access to any of these abilities in hand. So totally agree with this pick, really love this, and that you're shedding light on a pretty underrated card. Well, we did it. That was a little bit longer than I thought. Thank you so much if you did stick around. Here's a recap of the cards that we did cover today. So Blood Artist picks were Share the Spoils and Sadistic Hypnotist. Commander Bommy is the Regalia and Claws of Gix. Deck Driver MTG chose Braid's Arisen Nightmare and Traumatize. Salubrious Snail shared Tyrant of Discord and Detective's Phoenix. That Mill Guy chose the Undercity and Ashiok Dream Render. Trinket Mage's picks were Dino DNA and False Prophet. Quips&Guac shared Brash Taunter and Explorer Scope, and 3/3 Elk shared Bruna the Fading Light and Thraben Charm. Just like how we picked the deck building competitions in the past, please comment your favorite card covered today. There's no stipulation behind that. It can be a card you personally love to play. It can be something you've never seen before but want to pick up. Or, as I mentioned earlier, maybe it's your favorite because you think it's a card that aligns perfectly with the creator and their personality. Whatever it is, the 4 most liked viewer comments will be put into a poll to be voted on. Whatever card wins the poll, I'll ship a Baldur's Gate Collector Booster Pack for free to the person who shared that pick. Thank you so much to the content creators for taking the time to share these ideas. I really appreciate you. And also, if there is someone who is not subscribed to any of these content creators, definitely check out their content. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I'm excited to hear and engage with your thoughts in the comments below.